Admiral Kate Morrison stood at the large viewing window of the diplomatic ship. The stars looked peaceful out there, but she knew that peace would not last much longer. Her hands were steady as she watched the alien ships approach. 3 massive vessels, each one bigger than anything humans had ever built. Captain Ryan Blake walked up beside her. His face was tense. "Admiral, they're here," he said quietly. "The Zephyrian fleet just dropped out of hyperspace." Kate nodded. She had been expecting this moment for weeks. The Zephyrians had sent messages across the galaxy. They wanted to meet with humanity's leaders. They said they had important business to discuss. Kate knew it would not be good news. "How many ships?" she asked. 3 command vessels and about 50 escorts," Ryan replied. "They're not taking any chances." Dr. Lisa Parker joined them at the window. She was the team's expert on alien species. She had spent years studying the Zephyrians. "They always travel in large groups," she explained. "It's a show of power. They want us to know they're stronger than us." The communication system crackled to life. A rough voice spoke in broken human language. "Human vessel, you will prepare for boarding. The High Council wishes to speak." Kate walked to the communication panel. "This is Admiral Morrison. We welcome the Zephyrian delegation aboard our ship." "No," the voice said firmly. "You will come to us. We do not board weak vessels." Ryan's jaw tightened. Lisa shook her head. Kate remained calm. "Very well. We'll take a shuttle over." 20 minutes later, Kate, Ryan, and Lisa were walking through the corridors of the Zephyrian command ship. The aliens were tall, with gray skin and 4 arms. They moved with the confidence of a species that had conquered dozens of worlds. Their ship was impressive. The walls were made of some kind of metal that seemed to glow. The technology was clearly advanced. The Zephyrians led them to a large chamber. At the center sat 5 aliens on raised platforms. The one in the middle was clearly the leader. He was bigger than the others, with scars across his face and arms. This was War Marshal Vexthul. "So," Vexthul said, his voice echoing in the chamber, "these are the humans we have heard about." Kate stepped forward. "I am Admiral Kate Morrison, representing the United Human Colonies. We're honored to meet with the Zephyrian High Council." Vexthul laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Honored? You should be terrified." The other council members joined in the laughter. Kate noticed how they looked at her team, like they were looking at insects. "We have come to deliver a message," Vexthul continued. "Your species has spread too far into space. You have taken worlds that belong to stronger races. This ends now." Lisa stepped forward slightly. She had studied their body language. The way they held their 4 arms meant they were feeling superior. The way they moved their heads showed they were not interested in negotiation. "What exactly are you proposing?" Kate asked. Vexthul stood up. He was nearly 8 feet tall. "We are not proposing anything. We are telling you what will happen. You will abandon all human colonies beyond your home system. You will return to your small world and stay there." "And if we refuse?" Kate asked calmly. The chamber fell silent. The other council members leaned forward in their seats. Vexthul's expression grew dark. "If you refuse, we will destroy every human world. We will hunt down every human ship. Your species will be wiped from the galaxy." Ryan's hand moved toward his weapon, but Kate gave him a small gesture to stay calm. She had expected this. "How long do we have to consider your offer?" she asked. 72 of your hours," Vexthul replied. "After that, our fleets will begin the cleansing." He gestured to a wall panel. It lit up, showing images of space. Kate saw more ships than she could count, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They were positioned at the edge of human space, waiting. "We have 3,000 ships ready for war," Vexthul said proudly. "Your entire species has maybe 200 vessels. This is not a fair fight. This is an execution." The other council members made sounds that Kate assumed were laughter. They were enjoying this. "We have destroyed 47 species in the last century," another council member said. "Some fought back, some surrendered. All died in the end. Kate looked at the display showing the massive fleet. She looked at the confident aliens around her. She thought about the human colonies scattered across space. Millions of people living their lives, working, raising families, building futures. She thought about Earth, humanity's homeworld. The planet where her species had fought and struggled for thousands of years, where they had survived ice ages and plagues and wars, where they had learned to be survivors. 72 hours, she repeated. Yes, Vexthul said. Use that time to say goodbye to your species. Kate stood quietly for a long moment. The Zephyrians watched her, expecting her to beg or cry or show fear. Instead, she looked directly at Vexthul. Her voice was calm, but there was something in it that made even Ryan step back slightly. You want war? She said slowly. Then you've chosen death. The chamber fell completely silent. The council members stared at her. Vexthul's expression changed from amusement to confusion. Did you just threaten us? He asked. Kate smiled. It was not a warm smile. No, I made you a promise. The Zephyrians began laughing again, but it sounded forced now. Something about the humans' calm confidence bothered them. Take them back to their ship, Vexthul ordered. Let them spend their last days in peace. They walked back through the corridors. Lisa whispered to Kate. Admiral, they have 3,000 ships. Our entire fleet is maybe 200 vessels. Kate nodded. I know. Then how can we possibly fight them? Ryan asked quietly. Kate looked out a window at the stars. They think they know what humans are. They're about to learn they were wrong. The shuttle ride back to their ship was quiet. Kate was already making plans. The Zephyrians had made one critical mistake. They thought humans were like every other species they had conquered. They thought humans would fight like everyone else. They were wrong. General Alex Rodriguez sat in the emergency meeting room deep under the mountains of Colorado. The call from Admiral Morrison had arrived 3 hours ago. Now the most important people in human space were gathering around the table. Some were there in person. Others appeared as holograms from distant colonies. Director Susan Walsh placed a thick folder on the table. Her hands were steady, but Alex could see the tension in her eyes. She had been waiting for this day for 20 years. The Zephyrians have given us 72 hours, Alex said to the group. They want us to abandon every human world except Earth. If we refuse, they attack with 3,000 ships. Commander Jake Sullivan pulled up a star map. Red dots showed Zephyrian fleet positions. They surrounded human space like a noose. They're positioned at every major hyperspace route. No colony can escape if they decide to run. How many ships do we have? Asked Colonel Amy Foster from the Mars colony. Officially? 212 vessels, Jake replied. But that's not the real number. Susan opened her folder. Inside were documents marked with the highest security levels. Project. Prometheus has been active for 30 years. Every human ship, station, and colony has been built with hidden capabilities. Dr. Nathan Cross activated a holographic display. It showed a simple cargo ship. Then the image changed. Armor plates slid out from hidden compartments. Weapon ports opened along the hull. The peaceful merchant vessel became a warship in seconds. Every civilian ship can convert to military configuration in under 6 hours, Nathan explained. Mining ships become missile platforms. Passenger transports become troop carriers. Even space stations have hidden defenses. Amy leaned forward in her chair. How many ships are we really talking about? 8,437 vessels, Susan said quietly, plus another 12,000 automated defense drones disguised as maintenance robots and cargo containers. The room fell silent. Even Alex was surprised by the final numbers. Lieutenant Commander Ben Parker spoke from his hologram. He was stationed in Zephyrian space far from home. The sleeper program is ready too. We have agents on 47 Zephyrian worlds. They've been there for years, working normal jobs, learning their systems. What kind of sabotage can they do? Alex asked. Ben smiled. Every major Zephyrian military base has humans working in support roles. Janitors who know every security, code, mechanics who service their ships, cooks who prepare their food. They think we're just harmless workers. Jake pulled up another display. This one showed Zephyrian ship designs. We've been studying their technology for decades. Their ships are powerful, but they have weaknesses. Their shields don't cover the engine ports. Their weapons overheat after sustained fire. Their communication systems use frequencies we can jam. Most importantly, Nathan added, they fight like every other species they've conquered. Formation, flying, predictable tactics. They've never faced an opponent that adapts quickly. Susan stood up and walked to the main display. The Zephyrians have conquered 47 species, but every one of those species fought the same way. Honor combat, face-to-face battles, rules of war. Humans don't fight with honor, Alex said, grimly. We fight to win. Amy brought up reports from the outer colonies. Our people are already moving to positions. The miners on Kepler Station have armed their drilling equipment. The farmers on New Iowa have turned their harvesters into mobile weapons. Everyone knows what to do. What about the timeline? Jake asked. Alex looked at his watch. We have 68 hours left. Phase 1 begins in 12 hours. All civilian. Ships start conversion to military configuration. Phase 2 starts in 24 hours. Our agents in Zephyrian space begin sabotage operations. Dr. Nathan Cross pulled up technical specifications. The Prometheus weapon systems are ready. Every human colony has been secretly building weapons for years. Particle beam arrays disguised as communication towers. Missile silos hidden under farms. Orbital defense platforms that look like solar collectors. The Zephyrians think we're a young species that got lucky with space travel, Susan said. They don't understand what we really are. Ben's hologram flickered as his signal was scrambled for security. I've been living among them for 5 years. They see humans as weak because we don't start fights. They think peaceful means helpless. They're about to learn the difference, Alex replied. Commander Jake Sullivan brought up historical files. Earth's history shows something interesting. Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We've had world wars, civil wars, religious wars, resource wars. We've fought with sticks, swords, guns, tanks, and nuclear weapons. Other species fight for territory or resources, Amy added. Humans fight for survival. And when we fight for survival, we don't stop until the threat is completely eliminated. Susan activated a secure communication link. All colony commanders, this is Director Walsh. Project Prometheus is now active. Begin conversion protocols immediately. Across human space, the transformation began. On mining stations, workers pulled panels off cargo haulers to reveal missile launchers. On agricultural worlds, farmers drove their equipment into hidden underground facilities where weapons were attached. On passenger stations, families moved into protected areas while their homes became military bases. The Zephyrians had surveillance, ships watching some human colonies. They saw increased activity but assumed it was panic and evacuation preparations. They had no idea they were watching the largest military mobilization in galactic history. Dr. Nathan Cross reviewed the final preparations. Every human world now has 3 times more firepower than our intelligence reports claimed. Our ships can outmaneuver theirs. Our weapons can penetrate their shields. Our people are ready. Alex stood up from the table. The Zephyrians wanted to give us a choice, surrender or die. They forgot there was a third option. What's that? Amy asked. Alex looked around the room at the faces of humanity's military leaders. These were people whose ancestors had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. They carried the genetic memory of every human who had ever fought for their family's survival. Make them regret giving us the choice, he said. The meeting ended. Across human space, the final preparations continued. The Zephyrians were counting down the hours until humanity's surrender. They had no idea that humans were counting down the hours until war began. Humanity was about to show the galaxy what happened when you threatened the wrong species. Fleet Commander Zach Force stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human colony of New Boston grow larger on the screen. His 72 ships moved in perfect formation toward the planet. The humans had not responded to the ultimatum. Their time was up. Any sign of military resistance? He asked his weapons officer. None, Commander. We detect only civilian ships trying to evacuate. Cargo haulers, passenger transports, mining vessels. Nothing that can threaten us. Zakfor felt satisfied. This would be easier than he had expected. The humans were running away like frightened animals. Begin the attack. Destroy their orbital stations first, then target the fleeing ships. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire. Bright energy beams lanced out toward the human stations. But something strange happened. The first station they hit did not explode as expected. Instead, armor plating slid out from hidden sections. The station's communication array rotated and fired back. What was that? Zakfor demanded. Before his weapons officer could answer, more surprises came. The cargo hauler called New Frontier suddenly changed shape. Panels opened along its hull. Missile launchers emerged. Gun turrets unfolded from what had looked like storage containers. Captain Sam Torres stood on the bridge of the New Frontier as his ship completed its transformation. His crew had been waiting for this moment for months. They had practiced the conversion hundreds of times. All weapons online, reported his gunner. We have target lock on 3 Zephyrian ships. Fire everything, Sam ordered. The New Frontier had been disguised as a simple cargo ship. Now it revealed itself as a heavy assault vessel. Its missiles struck 2 Zephyrian ships before they could react. One exploded immediately. The other spun out of control, its engines damaged. Across the battle zone, the same transformation was happening. Every human ship was changing from civilian to military. The passenger transport Peaceful Journey opened weapon ports along its passenger decks. The mining ship Deep Digger revealed that its drilling equipment could also punch holes in enemy hulls. Major Linda Hayes watched from the bridge of her command ship as her squadron of mining drones surrounded a Zephyrian destroyer. The aliens had ignored the small robots, thinking they were harmless maintenance equipment. Execute swarm protocol, Linda ordered. The mining drones moved as one. They attached themselves to the Zephyrian ship's hull and began cutting through the armor with their mining lasers. Within minutes, they had opened the ship to space. The destroyer died without firing a shot. Admiral Tom Mitchell coordinated the battle from his flagship Defiance. He had fought in 3 wars before the Zephyrians arrived. He knew how to use terrain, timing, and surprise to win against larger forces. All ships, implement Tactic 7, he broadcast. The human ships began moving in patterns the Zephyrians had never seen. Instead of flying in formation, they scattered and regrouped randomly. Instead of fighting ship to ship, they worked in teams to surround and destroy single targets. The cargo ship Liberty Bell suddenly accelerated toward a Zephyrian cruiser. The aliens thought it was trying to ram them and prepared to destroy it. Instead, the Liberty Bell ejected its entire cargo bay. The bay was filled with automated mines that spread out and detonated around the cruiser. Zakfor watched his fleet falling apart. How are they doing this? Intelligence said they only had primitive weapons. His tactical officer was studying the sensor data. Commander, these ships are not what they appeared to be. The cargo hauler that just destroyed the Retribution has military-grade armor and weapons systems. The mining ships are using their equipment as weapons. Where did they get military technology? Zakfor demanded. He did not know that engineer Paula Stone was sitting in a hidden bunker on New Boston, watching everything through surveillance satellites. She had been waiting for this moment to activate the first phase of the Prometheus protocol. Begin Phase 1 activation, she said into her communicator. Across Zephyrian space, every piece of human-made technology suddenly came alive. Communication. Relays that humans had built on alien worlds began broadcasting jamming signals. Navigation beacons started giving false coordinates. Life support systems in Zephyrian buildings began releasing sleeping gas instead of fresh air. On the Zephyrian, homeworld alien commanders found that their communication arrays had stopped working. The humans who maintained their equipment had vanished during the night. Computer systems began shutting down. Transportation networks failed. Back at the battle, Captain Sam Torres was pressing his advantage. The New Frontier and 5 other converted ships surrounded a Zephyrian heavy cruiser. Instead of exchanging fire at long range like civilized warriors, the humans moved in close and targeted specific systems. Take out their engines first, Sam ordered. Then their weapons. Then their life support. Make them suffer. The Zephyrian ship tried to retreat, but the human ships were faster and more maneuverable. They had been designed to look like slow cargo haulers, but hidden engines gave them speed that surprised their enemies. Major Linda Hayes received a priority message from Admiral Mitchell. Linda, we need to capture some of their ships intact. Intelligence wants to study their technology. Understood, Admiral. Beginning capture protocol. Her mining drones swarmed over another Zephyrian destroyer, but instead of cutting through the hull, they attached magnetic clamps and began dragging the ship toward the human fleet. The aliens inside were trapped, their engines disabled, their weapons offline. Zakfor realized his fleet was losing. All ships retreat to hyperspace jump point. We need reinforcements. But when his ships tried to retreat, they found their path blocked. The human orbital stations that they had ignored were now moving. Each station was actually a massive ship disguised as a stationary platform. They formed a wall between the Zephyrians and escape. Admiral Tom Mitchell opened a communication channel to the alien commander. Fleet Commander Zakfor, this is Admiral Mitchell. You came here to destroy us. Now you're trapped. Surrender your ships, and we'll let your crews live. Never, Zakfor replied. We are Zephyrian warriors. We do not surrender to inferior species. Your choice, Tom said calmly. Continue the attack. The battle continued for 6 more hours. When it ended, 42 Zephyrian ships had been destroyed. 21 had been captured intact. 7 had managed to escape to hyperspace, but their crews were traumatized by what they had witnessed. The humans had lost only 3 ships, and those had been evacuated before they were destroyed. Captain Sam Torres stood in the wreckage of his bridge. The New Frontier had taken damage, but she was still fighting. Around him, his crew was already making repairs. They had work to do. This was just the first battle. Admiral Mitchell, Sam reported. New Boston is secure. Enemy fleet eliminated, or captured. What are our next orders? Tom Mitchell looked at the tactical display. More Zephyrian fleets were moving toward human space. They thought they were coming to help their defeated comrades. They had no idea they were walking into a trap prepared by a species that had been planning for this war since before they left their home planet. Prepare for Phase 2, Tom ordered. It's time to take the fight to them. Supreme War Chief Malthek slammed his 4 fists on the council table. The holographic reports from the battle at New Boston floated around him like angry ghosts. 42 ships destroyed. 21 captured. His entire advance fleet gone. How did this happen? He roared at his commanders. The humans were supposed to be weak. War Marshal Vexthal, who had delivered the original ultimatum, stood with his head lowered. Supreme War Chief, they were not what they appeared to be. Their cargo ships were disguised warships. Their mining equipment was weaponized. They fought like nothing we have seen before. Then we will show them real power, Malthek declared. Send the planet killer fleet. Deploy the biological weapons. We will burn every human world to ash. On the bridge of his dreadnought Eternal Conquest, Admiral Thexmar received the new orders. His ship was the size of a small moon, armed with weapons that could crack planets in half. Behind him followed 50 more ships of the same class, plus 200 support vessels. Set course for the human homeworld, he ordered. We will end this quickly. But Director Chris Morgan was already 3 steps ahead of them. From his command center on Luna, he watched the massive Zephyrian fleet moving through hyperspace. Every move they made was being tracked by human surveillance systems they didn't know existed. Colonel West, are your teams in position? He asked. Colonel, Diana West smiled from her position aboard a Zephyrian supply ship. She and her Special Forces team had been living undercover in the alien fleet for 2 years. They wore alien uniforms and spoke the language perfectly. All teams ready, Director. We've been planting surprises throughout their fleet for months. Diana's team had done more than just gather intelligence. They had sabotaged navigation systems, planted explosives in critical areas, and replaced key personnel with human agents. The Zephyrians thought they were being served by loyal alien crew members. In reality, half their support staff were humans. Dr. Frank Miller reviewed the psychological profiles his team had developed. The Zephyrians always fight the same way, he explained to the assembled commanders. They form battle lines. They exchange fire at long range. They follow ancient honor codes that make them predictable. What about these planet killer ships? Asked General Rodriguez. Big, slow, and designed to fight other ships that follow the same rules, Frank replied. They've never faced an enemy that thinks outside their expectations. Admiral Tom Mitchell was already positioning his forces for the next battle. The human fleet had grown to over 3,000 ships as more civilian vessels completed their military conversions. But he wasn't planning to meet the Zephyrians in open battle. Captain Stone, are the asteroid fields prepared? He asked. Captain Rachel Stone confirmed from her position in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. Every asteroid has been hollowed out and equipped with engines and weapons. We have 5,000 mobile weapons platforms ready to deploy. The Zephyrians would expect to find human ships waiting to defend Earth. Instead, they would face something completely different. Lieutenant Colonel Eric Davis monitored the alien communications from his intelligence ship. The Zephyrians were sending messages to their homeworlds, boasting about the crushing victory they would soon achieve. They still think they're fighting a conventional war, Eric reported. Their commanders are discussing battle formations and honor codes. They have no idea what's coming. When the Zephyrian planet killer fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Earth, Admiral Thexmar expected to see desperate human ships forming defensive lines. Instead, he saw nothing but empty space. Where are they? He demanded. His sensors officer studied the readings. I detect no large ships, Admiral. Only small debris and asteroids. Cowards, Thexmar sneered. They abandoned their homeworld. Begin planetary bombardment. The massive dreadnought charged its main weapon. Energy built up in the planet killer cannon. But before it could fire, the asteroids around them began to move. Captain Rachel Stone gave the signal. All units, execute asteroid storm. What the Zephyrians had dismissed as space debris suddenly revealed itself as the largest ambush in galactic history. 5,000 asteroids ignited their hidden engines and swarmed toward the alien fleet. Each one was armed with nuclear weapons and guided by artificial intelligence. Admiral Thexmar watched in horror as his massive ships were surrounded by attacking rocks. The planet-killer weapons were designed to destroy stationary targets, not thousands of small, fast-moving objects. Defensive fire, he ordered. Destroy those asteroids. But the human weapons were too small and too numerous. For every asteroid his ships destroyed, 10 more took its place. The nuclear explosions began lighting up space like deadly fireworks. Colonel, Diana West chose that moment to activate her sabotage. Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, explosions began occurring in engine rooms and weapon bays. Navigation systems failed. Life support began pumping knockout gas instead of oxygen. Diana, this is Director Morgan. Begin Phase 2. Diana's teams had spent months learning the alien computer systems. Now they turned those systems against their creators. Zephyrian ships began firing on each other as their targeting computers were hacked. Dreadnoughts collided as their navigation was corrupted. The Eternal Conquest shuddered as internal explosions rocked the ship. Admiral Thexmar realized too late that his crew had been infiltrated. Security teams to all critical areas, he ordered. Find the saboteurs. But it was too late. Lieutenant Colonel Eric Davis had been monitoring their communications, and human agents had been planted throughout their fleet. Every order was anticipated. Every response was countered. Captain Rachel Stone pressed her advantage. The asteroid swarm had crippled half the Zephyrian fleet. Now the real human ships emerged from behind the moon. They moved in formations the aliens had never seen, using tactics that broke every rule of civilized warfare. Dr. Frank Miller watched the battle from his analysis station. They're panicking, he reported. Their entire command structure is breaking down. They've never faced an enemy that adapts this quickly. The Zephyrians had prepared for a glorious battle between fleets. Instead, they found themselves fighting rocks, traitors, and an enemy that refused to follow any rules they understood. Admiral, Tom Mitchell opened a communication channel to the alien commander. Admiral Thexmar, this is Admiral Mitchell. Your fleet is destroyed. Your homeworlds are next. Surrender now and we might let some of your people live. Never, Thexmar replied, but his voice shook with fear. The Zephyrian Empire will never surrender to animals. Then you've chosen the same fate as your ships, Tom replied calmly. The battle ended 6 hours later. The entire Zephyrian planet killer fleet was destroyed or captured. Not a single human world had been damaged. The aliens who had planned to exterminate humanity were now prisoners aboard human ships. Director Chris Morgan reviewed the final reports. The second phase of humanity's plan was complete. The Zephyrians had sent their most powerful weapons against Earth. Those weapons were now part of the human fleet. What's our next move? Asked Colonel West. Chris looked at the star map showing Zephyrian territory. Phase 3. We take the war to their home worlds. It's time to show them what happens when you threaten the wrong species. The hunters were about to become the hunted. War Marshal Vexthul sat in chains aboard the human ship Defiance. The same alien who had laughed at Admiral Morrison's threats now stared at the floor with empty eyes. His proud uniform was torn and dirty. His forearms were bound with human restraints. Admiral Kate Morrison walked into the prisoner holding area. She looked exactly the same as she had during their first meeting, but now Vexthul flinched when he saw her. Hello again, War Marshal, Kate said calmly. I told you that. You had chosen death. I kept my promise. Vexthul looked up at her with fear in his eyes. What have you done to my people? Kate activated a holographic display. It showed the Zephyrian home worlds. Human ships were in orbit around every planet. Alien cities were intact, but human flags flew over every government building. Your empire no longer exists, Kate said simply. Your fleets are destroyed or captured. Your worlds are under human control. Your government has surrendered unconditionally. The war had lasted only 6 months. The species that had conquered 47 other civilizations was now itself conquered. Captain Ryan Blake entered the room carrying a data pad. Admiral, the final numbers are ready. Kate took the pad and read from it. The Zephyrian Empire had 3,047 warships at the start of this conflict. 2,812 have been destroyed. 235 have been captured and are now part of the human fleet. Vexthul's voice was barely a whisper. How did you defeat us so completely? You made the same mistake as every bully in history, Kate replied. You thought being strong meant you could pick on anyone weaker than you. You never learned what to do when someone fights back. Dr. Lisa Parker joined them in the holding area. She had been studying the psychological effects of the war on captured Zephyrians. Her findings were disturbing. The entire Zephyrian species is suffering from trauma, she reported. They've developed what we call learned helplessness. The mention of humans causes panic attacks. Their children have nightmares about human soldiers. Good, Kate said without emotion. Fear will keep them from trying this again. The transformation of Zephyrian space had been swift and complete. General Alex Rodriguez had coordinated the occupation from his command ship. Human forces had taken control of every major world, space station and military facility in the former empire. The Zephyrians kept detailed records of every species they conquered, Alex reported during a briefing. We've contacted the survivors. 43 species want their independence restored. 4 species have been completely wiped out. Director Susan Walsh had been overseeing the integration of Zephyrian technology into human systems. Their ships are well built, but poorly designed for actual combat. Their weapons are powerful but inefficient. Their computers are advanced but vulnerable to infiltration. What about their other enemies? Kate asked. Commander Jake Sullivan brought up intelligence reports. The Zephyrians were at war with 6 other species when they attacked us. Those species are now asking to ally with humanity. Word is spreading that humans defeated the galaxy's strongest empire in 6 months. The speed of human victory had shocked every civilization in the galaxy. The Zephyrians had been feared for centuries. Now, they were a broken people living under human rule. Lieutenant Commander Ben Parker had been promoted to governor of the main Zephyrian world. His job was to rebuild their society under human guidance. They're cooperative now, he reported. Too cooperative. They're terrified to disobey any human order. We've had to assign psychologists to help them function normally. The psychological warfare had been more effective than any weapon. The Zephyrians had built their entire culture around being the strongest species in the galaxy. When humans proved stronger, their whole worldview collapsed. Dr. Frank Miller had studied this effect carefully. They defined themselves as predators, he explained. When they became prey, they didn't know how to be anything else. It's like their entire species has given up. Kate walked to the main viewing window of her ship. Outside, she could see the Zephyrian capital city. Human shuttles moved between the buildings. Human soldiers patrolled the streets. The proud alien empire had become a human protectorate. What happens now? Ryan asked. Now we rebuild, Kate replied. We'll teach them how to be productive members of galactic society instead of conquerors. It will take generations, but they'll learn. Admiral Tom Mitchell joined them at the window. His fleets were now the strongest military force in the galaxy. The other species are asking questions, he said. They want to know what humanity plans to do with all this power. Kate considered this. Humanity now controlled the territory of 48 different species. Human ships patrolled space lanes that had been Zephyrian trade routes. Human governors administered worlds across multiple star systems. We're not conquerors, she said finally. We're survivors. But the galaxy needs to understand something important. She activated the ship's communication system. Her message would be broadcast to every civilized world in the galaxy. This is Admiral Kate Morrison of the Human Federation, she began. 6 months ago, the Zephyrian Empire threatened to exterminate humanity. They gave us a choice between surrender and death. We chose a third option. The transmission reached hundreds of worlds. Alien leaders listened carefully to every word. Humanity desires peace with all species, Kate continued. We want trade, cooperation, and friendship. But let this be a lesson to any who would threaten us. We are not the weak young species you might think we are. She paused, looking directly into the camera. We are the children of Earth. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars. We learned to be survivors by facing extinction and refusing to die. If you come in peace, we will welcome you as friends. If you come in war, you will join the Zephyrians in learning what happens when you threaten the wrong species. The message ended. Across the galaxy, alien governments began revising their policies toward humanity. Trade delegations replaced military threats. Friendship treaties replaced conquest plans. Vexthal listened to the broadcast from his cell. When it ended, he looked up at Kate with something that might have been respect. We thought you were animals, he said quietly. No, Kate replied. You thought you were gods. We taught you the difference. The human ships began their journey home. Behind them, the former Zephyrian Empire began learning to live in a galaxy where humanity was no longer the newest species, but the strongest one. The war was over. Humanity had won, and the galaxy would never forget the lesson they had taught. Children across the galaxy would grow up hearing stories about the humans, the species that smiled before they fought, the species that turned anything into a weapon, the species that never forgot a threat. The universe had learned that when a human promises death, they always keep their word. Commander Alex Howard stood on the bridge of the UES horizon, watching the stars through the main viewport. His hands were clasped behind his back, but his fingers fidgeted with nervous energy. In all his 15 years of space service, he had never faced a situation like this. They're approaching, sir, said Lieutenant Frank Reed from the sensor station. 87 vessels, just as their message indicated. Alex nodded. And our status? All systems ready. Defense protocols on standby as ordered. The Draconian fleet had appeared at the edge of the solar system 3 days ago. Their message was simple: surrender or be destroyed. They claimed humanity was an aberration that needed to be studied and controlled. Now Alex was being sent to meet them before they reached Earth's defense perimeter. Open a channel when we're in range, Alex ordered. Let's see if they're willing to talk before they shoot. Lieutenant Olivia Bennett, the ship's xenolinguist, moved to stand beside him. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes reflected the starlight from the viewport. "I've been studying their initial communication, sir," she said quietly. "Something seems off about their language patterns. Off how? It's hard to explain. The translation is perfect. Too perfect, actually. It's as if they learned our language from a textbook but don't fully understand the nuances." Alex frowned. "Make note of anything unusual during the meeting. It might give us an edge." The horizon slowed as it approached the meeting point. The Draconian fleet was visible now. Massive ships with sharp angular designs that reminded Alex of ancient Earth predators. Their hulls gleamed with a metallic blue-green sheen that seemed to shift in the starlight. "They're hailing us," Frank announced. "On screen," Alex replied, straightening his uniform. The view screen flickered, and Alex found himself staring at a reptilian face. Admiral Krell, according to the transmission data, had scales the color of burnished copper and vertical, pupils that narrowed as he regarded the humans. Behind him, other Draconians worked at control stations that pulsed with strange light. "Commander Howard," Krell said, his voice unexpectedly smooth. "You represent Earth in this matter?" "I do, Admiral. I'm authorized to discuss your, demands, though I must say, threatening a planet you've just contacted isn't the best way to start a relationship." Krell's mouth stretched in what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "Relationships are not our concern. Your species has been identified as an anomaly. You will submit to examination and classification." "I'm afraid that won't be possible," Alex replied calmly. "Earth is a sovereign world. We're open to peaceful exchange of knowledge, but not to submission." "You misunderstand," Krell said. "This is not a negotiation. Your technology is primitive. Your defenses are inadequate. We could destroy your major cities before your planetary defense systems could target our vessels." Olivia stepped forward slightly, catching Alex's eye and making a subtle gesture. He gave her a small nod. "Admiral," she said, "may I ask why you consider humans an aberration?" Krell's eyes shifted to her. "Your development pattern is irregular. You should not be here." "Could you elaborate?" she pressed. "What makes our development irregular?" The Admiral paused and something flickered across his face. Confusion, perhaps? "Your biological and technological signatures do not match expected parameters. You will be studied. You will be corrected." Alex noticed Olivia's hands tighten at her sides. Something in the exchange had disturbed her. "Admiral," Alex said, "we request time to consult with our leadership regarding your demands." "You have 6 Earth hours," Krell replied. "Then we will begin corrective procedures." The transmission ended abruptly. Alex turned to Olivia. "What did you notice?" "His responses were almost scripted," she said. "When I asked him to elaborate, he seemed confused, like he didn't have prepared answers for follow-up questions." Dr. Alan Russell, the ship's science officer, joined them at the viewport. "The sensor readings from their ships are unlike anything I've seen. Their energy signatures fluctuate in patterns that don't match their apparent technology level." "Meaning?" "Either they're masking their true capabilities or," Russell hesitated, "or something else is powering those ships." A communication alert sounded from the command console. "Sir," Frank called out. "Priority message from Earth Defense Command." Alex moved quickly to the console and entered his authorization code. The message was brief. "Return immediately. Diplomatic approach terminated." "Set. Course for Earth," Alex ordered. "Maximum speed." "Sir?" Frank looked confused. "What about the negotiations?" "They've been called off at the highest level." Alex's expression was grim. "Something's happening that we haven't been told about." As the horizon turned back toward Earth, the Draconian fleet began to move. They formed a perfect crescent formation, advancing steadily toward the blue planet that hung in the distance. "They're positioning for an attack run," Frank reported, his voice tense. "Push the engines beyond safety protocols if you have to," Alex ordered. "We need to get behind our defense perimeter." The horizon shot forward, straining against the limits of its drive system. Behind them, the Draconian fleet accelerated as well, but made no move to fire upon the retreating Earth vessel. Olivia stood beside Alex as they watched the tactical display. "Why aren't they shooting at us?" We're an easy target. They want us. To see what happens next, Russell suggested from his station. Whatever they're planning, they want witnesses. The horizon passed through Earth's outermost defense line just as the planetary defense grid began to power up. Alex had expected to see the orbital platforms charging their weapons, but instead something strange was happening. Energy readings were spiking from Earth itself. "Commander," Russell called out, his voice tight with confusion. "I'm detecting massive energy buildup, but it's not coming from our defense platforms. It's coming from inside the planet." "Inside? That's impossible," Alex said, moving to the science station. But the readings were clear. Something within Earth was awakening, generating power on a scale that defied conventional understanding. "The Draconians have stopped," Frank reported. "They're holding position just outside our defense perimeter." On the main view screen, the Draconian fleet hung in space, their formation perfect and motionless. Then, without warning, a pulse of blue-white energy erupted from Earth. It spread outward like a ripple in a pond, passing harmlessly through the horizon and other human vessels. But when it reached the Draconian fleet, something extraordinary happened. The pulse seemed to wrap around each ship, enveloping them in cocoons of light. For a moment, the fleet shimmered like stars seen through water, and then they were simply gone. No explosion, no debris. Just empty space where 87 warships had been moments before. Silence fell over the horizon's bridge. Alex stared at the view screen, trying to process what he had just witnessed. Did we just destroy their entire fleet?" Frank finally asked. "No," Russell whispered, still looking at his readings. "They're not destroyed. There's no debris, no radiation. It's as if they were transported somewhere." "But how?" Alex turned to his science officer. "We don't have that kind of technology." "Apparently," Olivia said quietly, "we do." Alex's communicator beeped with an encrypted signal. The message was brief but clear. "Report to Antarctica base immediately. Classification Guardian Prime." He had never heard of Guardian Prime, but the authorization code belonged to Director Patricia Collins, the head of Earth's most secret defense division. "Set course for Antarctica," he told his navigation officer. "Something tells me we're about to learn that everything we know about Earth is wrong." The UES Horizon landed at the Antarctica base 6 hours later. Snow swirled around them as Alex, Olivia, and Dr. Russell stepped off the ship. A group of armed guards in white uniforms met them on the landing pad. "Commander Howard," said the lead guard. "Follow me. Director Collins is waiting." They were led through a series of security checkpoints into an elevator that plunged deep beneath the ice. Alex noticed that none of the guards wore regular Earth Defense Force insignia. Instead, their uniforms bore a simple symbol he had never seen before, a blue circle with a spiral inside it. "What is this place?" Olivia whispered as they descended. "I've heard rumors," Russell replied quietly. "A research facility that predates the Defense Force. But I thought it was just a story." The elevator stopped, and the doors opened to reveal a vast underground complex. The walls were made of a strange, smooth material that seemed to glow with a faint blue light. It didn't look like any building material Alex had seen before. Director Patricia Collins waited for them in a circular room filled with screens showing the empty space where the Draconian fleet had been. She was a tall woman with silver hair cut short and eyes that seemed to evaluate everything they fell upon. "Commander Howard," she said, "thank you for coming so quickly. What you witnessed today was not supposed to happen for another 50 years, at least." "What exactly did we witness, Director?" Alex asked. "Those ships just vanished. They were relocated to a containment dimension," Collins replied matter-of-factly, as if discussing the weather. "A pocket of space-time separate from our own. The technology is not of recent development." Olivia stepped forward. "You're saying we've had the ability to transport entire fleets into another dimension? That's centuries beyond our current technology level." "Current," Collins repeated with a slight smile. "That's the key word, Lieutenant Bennett. Please, all of you, sit down. What I'm about to tell you is Earth's most carefully guarded secret." They sat at a round table. Collins pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared above them showing Earth but somehow different. The continents were arranged slightly differently, and strange structures dotted the surface. 10,000 years ago, Collins began, humans were not the primitive tribes described in our history books. We were an advanced spacefaring civilization, with technology far beyond what we possess even now. Alex stared at her in disbelief. That's impossible. There's no archaeological evidence. Because it was deliberately erased, Collins interrupted. Our ancestors hid everything. They buried our cities, dismantled our technology, and rewrote our history. They did it to save us. From what? Russell asked. From the harvesters, Collins replied, her voice growing softer. A species that consumed entire worlds. They didn't just destroy civilizations, they absorbed them, took their knowledge, their technology, and their genetic material. And they were hunting us. The hologram changed to show fearsome ships shaped like massive crystalline structures. Even as a recording, they inspired a strange sense of dread. Our ancestors made a terrible choice, Collins continued. They decided to hide in plain sight. They transformed Earth into a fortress disguised as a primitive world. They erased their own technological achievements from history and from the minds of most humans, preserving the knowledge in only a few bloodlines. She looked at each of them in turn. The defense system you saw activate was built into Earth itself. It has been sleeping, growing stronger as it drew energy from the planet's core, waiting for the day when the harvesters or their scouts found us again. Alex tried to process this information. And the Draconians? They're connected to these harvesters? They're unwitting scouts. Collins nodded. We've known about them for decades. They bear signs of harvester influence, subtle genetic and neurological modifications that make them seek out hidden civilizations. They don't even know they're being used. Olivia's eyes widened. That explains the strange patterns in their communication. They were following implanted directives they didn't fully understand. A door opened and a man in civilian clothes entered the room. He looked ordinary. Average height, brown hair, glasses. Not at all like someone who would have access to Earth's most classified facility. This is Professor Sam Miller, Collins introduced him. He's the reason you're all here. Miller nodded, nervously at them. I was teaching my archaeology class when they brought me in yesterday. I still don't quite believe all this. Professor Miller is special, Collins explained. His genetic code contains activation sequences for the ancient systems. He's descended from the original Guardians, those tasked with remembering the truth when the time came. I started having strange dreams 3 weeks ago, Miller said. Images of stars and ships and technology I couldn't possibly know about. Then I drew this in my sleep. He held up a piece of paper with the same spiral symbol that was on the guards' uniforms. Collins continued. We've been monitoring people with Guardian genetic markers for generations. When the professor's dormant memories began to activate, we knew something was coming. We just didn't expect the Draconians to arrive so soon. So what happened to them? Alex asked. Are they dead? No, Miller answered, surprising himself with his certainty. They're in stasis. The containment dimension holds them safely until they can be fixed. Fixed how? Russell asked. Freed from harvester influence, Collins said. Which brings me to why you're here, Commander Howard. We need a team to enter the containment dimension and study the Draconians, find out what they know about the harvesters, and if possible, remove whatever control mechanisms are influencing them. You want us to go into another dimension? Alex asked incredulously. The technology is safe, Collins assured him. Professor, Miller's awakening memories are providing us with the operational knowledge we need. And your crew has already encountered the Draconians. You have a xenolinguist who noticed their communication anomalies, and a science officer who detected their unusual energy signatures. Before Alex could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. One of the screens flashed red with a warning message. Director called a technician from across the room. We're detecting multiple activations worldwide. The main screen changed to show a map of Earth. Dozens of points were lighting up across the continents. What are those? Olivia asked. Ancient sites, Miller answered. his eyes wide with sudden understanding. Stonehenge, the pyramids, the underwater monuments of Yonaguni, they're all part of Earth's defense network. They're activating because the system detected something else approaching, Collins said grimly. The Draconians were just the advance scouts. Something bigger is coming. Miller stared at the map, his hands trembling slightly. The Great Return, he whispered. That's what the Draconians were talking about in their transmissions. The harvesters are coming back. How long do we have? Alex asked. Collins looked at the data flowing across the screens. Based on these activation patterns, less than 30 days. Then we need to move quickly, Alex said, standing up. If we're going into this containment dimension, we need to prepare now. As they left the room to begin preparations, Alex glanced back at the holographic display of ancient Earth. 10,000 years of hidden history, a planet-sized defense system, and an enemy that consumed entire civilizations. Everything he knew about humanity had changed in a single day. And somehow he had the feeling that the real revelations were yet to come. 3 days later, Alex stood in a large circular chamber deep within the Antarctica base. The walls were covered with strange symbols that seemed to shift and change when he wasn't looking directly at them. In the center of the room was a platform surrounded by curved pillars of the same glowing blue material that made up much of the facility. This is the transfer chamber, Professor Miller explained. He looked different now, more confident, his eyes clearer as if he were remembering who he truly was. Our ancestors built these gateways throughout the solar system. This one will take us to the containment dimension. Olivia and Dr. Russell were checking their equipment one last time. They had been selected along with 2 security officers, Grace Kelly and Paul Martinez, to accompany Alex and Miller into the containment dimension. How exactly does this work? Alex asked, eyeing the platform warily. It creates a controlled fold in spacetime, Miller said. Think of reality as a piece of paper. Normally, to get from one point to another, you have to travel across the surface. This technology folds the paper so 2 distant points touch. And you're sure you know how to operate it? Russell asked. Miller nodded. More every hour. The genetic memories are becoming clearer. It's strange, like remembering things I never actually experienced. Director Collins entered the chamber carrying 6 small devices that looked like wristbands. These are communication and emergency recall units, she explained, handing one to each team member. They'll maintain your connection to our dimension and allow us to pull you back if necessary. What exactly are we looking for in there? Grace asked as she strapped the device to her wrist. 3 things, Collins replied. First, confirm that the Draconians are safely contained. Second, examine their ships for any technology that might help us understand their connection to the harvesters. And third, if possible, attempt to free Admiral Krell from the harvester. Influence. Professor Miller believes he may have the knowledge we need. Miller stepped onto the platform and began pressing symbols on a control panel. The pillars started to hum and the air between them shimmered like heat rising from hot pavement. Ready? He asked, looking at the team. Alex took a deep breath and nodded. One by one, they stepped onto the platform beside Miller. The humming grew louder, and the air around them began to twist and bend. Alex felt a strange pulling sensation, as if his body was being gently stretched in all directions at once. There was a flash of blue light, and suddenly they were somewhere else. The containment dimension looked nothing like Alex had expected. Instead of a prison or a void, they stood in what appeared to be a perfect replica of Earth's solar system, but in miniature. Above them, tiny planets orbited a small sun, while below their feet was a transparent surface through which they could see stars. Amazing, Russell whispered, looking around. It's like a scaled model of our solar system. Miller nodded. The containment dimension mirrors our reality. It helps stabilize the transfer and makes it easier to locate specific objects. He pointed to a cluster of lights near the tiny Earth. Those are the Draconian ships. They moved toward the lights, which grew larger as they approached. Soon they could see all 87 Draconian vessels suspended in space, perfectly preserved. They're just frozen, Olivia said, studying the nearest ship. Time moves differently here, Miller explained. For them, only seconds have passed since they were transported. They boarded the largest ship, Admiral Krell's command vessel. Inside, they found the Draconian crew motionless at their stations, their reptilian features frozen in expressions of confusion or alarm. Russell scanned them with a device Collins had provided. They're in a state of suspended animation. Vital. Signs are stable but extremely slowed. "Where's Admiral Krell?" Alex asked. Miller led them to the ship's bridge, where they found the Admiral standing before his command chair. Unlike his crew, his eyes moved slightly, tracking their approach. "He's more aware than the others," Miller said. "The higher a Draconian's rank, the stronger their connection to the Harvester influence. It makes him more resistant to the stasis effect." Alex approached the Admiral cautiously. "Can he hear us?" "I believe so," Miller replied. He touched a control on his wristband, and a field of energy surrounded Krell. The Admiral's body relaxed slightly, and he took a breath. "What have you done?" Krell asked, his voice slow and strained. "Where am I?" "You're in a containment dimension," Alex explained. "We transported your fleet here to protect Earth." Krell's vertical pupils narrowed. "Impossible. Your species lacks such technology." "We had it all along," Miller said, stepping forward. "We just didn't remember until now." Russell moved closer with his scanner. "I'm detecting an unusual energy signature at the base of his skull." He showed Miller the readings. "Could that be the Harvester influence you mentioned?" Miller studied the scan and nodded. "A control implant. All Draconians probably have them, but his is more sophisticated." Olivia addressed the Admiral. "You told us humans were an aberration. Why did you say that?" Krell seemed to struggle with the question. "Your pattern is wrong. You should not be here. The Great Return requires all anomalies to be corrected." "The Great Return," Alex repeated. "What exactly is that?" Krell's eyes widened slightly. "The unifiers come to bring harmony, to elevate worthy species." "Unifiers?" Russell asked. "Is that what the Harvesters call themselves now?" Krell didn't answer. Instead, he began to shake, and a thin line of blood appeared from his nostril. "The implant is fighting his conscious mind," Miller said urgently. "We need to remove it before it causes permanent damage." "Can you do that?" Alex asked. Miller hesitated, then nodded. "I think so. The memories include medical knowledge about Draconian physiology." He turned to Russell. "I'll need your help." They carefully laid Krell on the floor of the bridge. Miller took a small tool from his kit and made adjustments to it based on Russell's scanner readings. "The implant is crystalline," Miller explained. "It's embedded at the base of his brainstem, where it can influence his thoughts and perceptions. We need to disrupt its energy pattern without damaging the surrounding tissue." As Miller worked, Olivia explored the ship's computer systems. "Alex," she called from a nearby console. "You should see this." Alex joined her and looked at the screen. It showed a star map with several systems highlighted. "These are worlds the Draconians have corrected in the past year," Olivia explained. "Look at the pattern. The highlighted systems formed a clear path leading directly to Earth. They were being guided here," Alex realized. "The Harvesters, or Unifiers as they call themselves now, have been using the Draconians to map a route." From the floor, Miller called out, "I've isolated the implant. Dr. Russell, I need you to monitor his vital signs while I extract it." Alex and Olivia watched as Miller carefully used his tool to draw out a small, glowing crystal from the base of Krell's skull. The moment it left his body, Krell gasped, and his eyes flew open, suddenly clear and alert. "What have you done?" the Admiral asked, his voice stronger now. "I can think clearly for the first time in years." Miller held up the crystal. "This was controlling you. You and your people have been used as scouts for the Harvesters." Krell struggled to sit up. "Harvesters? Yes, I remember now. The Collective. They came to our world as allies, offering technology and knowledge, but then," he paused, his expression haunted, "they began to change us, little by little. Those who resisted disappeared." "The Collective," Alex repeated. Is that what the harvesters call themselves now? Krill nodded. They present themselves as benevolent unifiers while secretly consuming civilizations from within. They've taken over half the known galaxy already. He looked at them with new understanding. And Earth is their primary target, the one world that escaped them long ago. How much time do we have before they arrive? Alex asked. Less than 30 of your days, Krell replied grimly. And when they come, they will bring a fleet that makes mine look insignificant. Olivia's communication device beeped with an incoming message from Director Collins. Return immediately. Ancient structures, worldwide, are fully activating. Earth is waking up. When Alex and his team returned to the Antarctica base, they found it transformed. The walls pulsed with bright blue energy, and new rooms had appeared where solid rock had been before. Staff members rushed through corridors carrying equipment that hadn't existed days ago. What's happening? Alex asked Director Collins as they stepped off the transfer platform. Earth is remembering what it truly is, she replied, leading them to a large new chamber that had opened up beneath the ice. Ancient systems are coming online all over the planet. The new chamber was vast, with a huge holographic display of Earth floating in its center. Across the planet's surface, hundreds of points of light glowed. Each light represents an ancient structure that has activated, Collins explained. Stonehenge, the pyramids, the Nazca Lines, Easter Island. They were never just monuments or religious sites. They're components of Earth's defense network. Admiral Krell, who had come back with them, stared at the display in amazement. Your ancestors built all this and then just forgot about it? Not forgot, Miller corrected. Sacrificed. They gave up their technology and most of their history to hide from the harvesters. He approached the hologram and touched one of the glowing points. It expanded to show the Great Pyramid of Giza, now emitting a faint blue light visible even in satellite images. We're receiving reports from around the world, a technician called out. The public is noticing. Social media is flooded with images and videos. We can't contain this anymore. Collins nodded grimly. We never expected to. The awakening was always going to be public. She turned to face the team. It's time to tell humanity the truth. We've prepared for this day for generations. And the Draconian fleet? Olivia asked. What about them? Admiral Krell has agreed to help us, Collins said. We're going to free his crew from the harvester implants and bring them back to our dimension. We'll need their ships and their knowledge of the collective's tactics. Krell stepped forward. My people were used. Our minds were not our own. I will do whatever I can to stop those who enslaved us. His reptilian face was solemn. Your world saved us when you could have destroyed us. We will not forget that. Suddenly the ground shook beneath them. The holographic display flickered, then stabilized, showing a new image, a cross-section of Earth revealing something massive at its core. What is that? Alex asked, pointing at a structure that seemed to be growing within the planet. Miller's eyes widened. The Heart of Terra, he whispered. I didn't think it was real, it was just a legend in my awakening memories. What is the Heart of Terra? Russell asked. A weapon, Miller replied. Or more accurately, a planetary defense system unlike anything ever built. The legends say it can redirect the energy of an entire star if necessary. Collins looked both awed and concerned. If that's activating, then Earth's defense system believes the threat is even greater than we thought. A communication officer approached them. Director, we're receiving worldwide requests from government leaders for information, and our deep space sensors have detected something at the edge of the solar system. The collective, Krell said, his voice tight. They're coming, Collins nodded. It's time. Professor Miller, are you ready to address the world? Miller looked startled. Me? Why me? Because you carry the genetic memory of our ancestors, Collins explained. You are the living link between what we were and what we are now. People need to hear the truth from someone who truly understands it. Miller swallowed hard and nodded. I'll do it. Within an hour, Miller was seated before a camera in a small room. His image would be broadcast to every screen on Earth. Alex, Olivia, and Russell watched from behind the camera as Collins counted down. 3, 2, 1. Miller took a deep breath. People of Earth, he began, his voice steadier than Alex expected. My name is Professor Sam Miller. Until a week ago, I was an archaeology teacher with a quiet life and ordinary problems. Now I am the bearer of a truth that will change how you see everything. Our planet, our history, and our place in the universe. As Miller spoke, explaining humanity's true origins and the coming threat, Alex watched screens showing reactions from around the world. There was fear and disbelief, but also a strange recognition, as if deep down, humans had always suspected there was more to their story. The strange lights you've seen at ancient sites around the world are not cause for alarm, Miller continued. They are Earth remembering what it truly is, a fortress built by our ancestors to protect us from a threat that is now returning. We are not defenseless, we are not alone, and we are not what the enemy thinks we are. When the broadcast ended, Collins turned to Alex. We've done all we can to prepare humanity. Now we need to prepare our defenses. Your team will work with Admiral Krell to free his crew and prepare their ships to join our defense fleet. Do you think we can win? Alex asked quietly. That depends on how quickly we can awaken Earth's full defense capabilities, Collins replied, and how much of our ancestors' knowledge Professor Miller can access in time. Over the next 2 weeks, Alex and his team made multiple trips to the containment dimension. One by one, they freed the draconian crews from their implants. Some ships were brought back to Earth's dimension, where they joined a growing defense force in orbit around the planet. On Earth, the awakening continued. Strange structures emerged from the ocean floors. Mountains shifted to reveal hidden installations. The ancient defense network came to life piece by piece. Miller's genetic memories grew stronger. He began to understand technologies that had been lost for 10,000 years. Under his guidance, Earth's scientists learned to operate systems they hadn't known existed days before. Admiral Krell proved to be a valuable ally. His knowledge of the collective's tactics helped Earth prepare its defenses. They will send peaceful emissaries first, he explained during a strategy meeting. They will offer friendship and technology. That is how they begin the consumption of a world, with gifts that hide their true purpose. Which is, Alex asked, to study your weaknesses, to find the best way to absorb your uniqueness into their collective. Krell's eyes narrowed. They fear Earth. They remember how your ancestors escaped them. They will be cautious this time, but no less determined. 25 days after the Draconian fleet vanished, Earth's deep space sensors detected a new fleet approaching. Massive crystalline ships that dwarfed even the largest Draconian vessels. They're broadcasting a message, a communication officer announced. Let's hear it, Collins ordered. A melodious voice filled the command center. People of Earth, we are the collective. We come in peace seeking friendship and exchange of knowledge. We have been searching for you for a very long time, Krell hissed. And so it begins. The lies that precede the harvest. Collins looked at the approaching fleet on the display. Ready our defenses. It's time to show the collective that Earth remembers who we really are. The collective's massive ships hung in Earth's orbit like crystal sculptures catching the sun. Their beauty made them even more terrifying. 7 of them positioned themselves around the planet, while the largest, nearly the size of Earth's moon, remained at a distance. In the Antarctica Command Center, Alex watched as Director Collins, Professor Miller, and Admiral Krell prepared for the upcoming meeting with the collective's representatives. They've requested to meet on neutral ground, Collins said. They suggested their command ship. Krell shook his head. Not their ship. That would be suicide. They want to get samples of human DNA to study your weaknesses. What about the old space station? Alex suggested. It's been abandoned for years, but we could make it functional for a short meeting. Collins nodded. A good compromise. We'll send a small team, Commander Howard, Professor Miller, and Admiral Krell. Me? Krell seemed surprised. Your presence will unsettle them, Miller explained. A Draconian free of their control, working with humans. It sends a message that we know what they truly are. As preparations were made for the meeting, Earth's transformation continued. The heart of Terra had now fully awakened, creating a network of energy that connected all the ancient sites. Ordinary people around the world reported strange experiences, memories of stars they had never seen, knowledge of technologies that shouldn't exist. The genetic memories are awakening in everyone with the right markers, Miller explained. Not as strongly as mine, but enough. Earth is helping its people remember. 6 hours later, Alex found himself on the old space station, waiting with Miller and Krell for the collective representatives to arrive. The station had been quickly refitted with life support systems, but it remained cold and bare. "They're docking," Alex said, watching the external cameras. The collective shuttle was beautiful, its surface shifting with colors like an opal. 3 figures emerged from the shuttle. They looked almost human, with pale skin and silver hair, but their eyes were entirely black, and they moved with an unnatural grace. "Welcome," Alex said as they entered the meeting room. "I am Commander Alex Howard of Earth. This is Professor Sam Miller, also of Earth, and Admiral Krell of the Draconian Fleet." The tallest of the 3 stepped forward. "I am Emissary Vale, of the Collective. We are pleased to finally meet the people of Earth." Its voice was melodious but had a strange echo, as if multiple voices spoke at once. "We have searched for you for a very long time." "We know why you've searched for us," Miller said calmly. "We remember who we are now. We remember who you are too." Vile's expression didn't change, but something flickered in its black eyes. "I'm afraid I don't understand. We simply wish to establish friendly relations with your world." Krell stepped forward. "As you wish to establish friendly relations with my people? Before you implanted control devices in our brains?" "Admiral Krell," Vile said, still smiling. "There seems to be some confusion. We helped your species advance beyond their natural limitations. We offered guidance. You enslaved them," Miller said. "As you've enslaved countless species. As you tried to enslave humanity 10,000 years ago, before we escaped and hid ourselves on Earth." Vile's smile finally faded. "You remember more? Then you should. But it doesn't matter. Your world will join the collective. Your uniqueness will strengthen us." "We will not join you," Alex said firmly. "We ask that you leave our solar system immediately." Vile laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "With what power will you resist us? We have watched your world. Your technology is primitive. Those ancient systems you've awakened are impressive, but they cannot stand against our fleet." Miller smiled for the first time. "You're wrong. Earth was never just our home. It's our greatest weapon. And it's fully awake now." At that moment, the space station shook. Outside, the heart of Terra had activated. From every ancient site on Earth, beams of blue-white energy shot upward, converging at a point in space before the planet. The energy formed a sphere that grew larger by the second. "What is this?" Vile demanded, its composure finally breaking. "The remembrance," Miller said simply. Earth remembering its true power. On the command ship, Collins watched as the energy sphere expanded. "All defense systems are online," a technician reported. "The heart of Terra is channeling power through the network. Energy levels are beyond anything we've ever recorded. Begin." "The operation," Collins ordered. In space, the draconian ships that had been brought back from the containment dimension moved into position around the collective fleet. From Earth's surface, more energy beams joined the growing sphere. On the space station, Alex received the signal that everything was ready. "This meeting is over," he told Vile. "Return to your ships. You have 1 hour to leave our system." Vile's face contorted with rage. "You cannot command us. We are the collective. We have consumed 1,000 worlds." It raised a hand, and a wave of energy knocked Alex backward. Krell leaped forward, tackling one of the other emissaries. Miller stood still, his eyes closed, mentally connected to Earth's defense network through his genetic link. "Now!" Alex shouted into his communicator as he regained his footing. The energy sphere before Earth suddenly expanded, engulfing the entire collective fleet. The ships didn't vanish as the Draconian fleet had. Instead, their crystalline structures began to fracture, lines of blue light spreading through them like cracks. At the same time, the freed Draconian ships fired weapons unlike anything Alex had seen before, targeting specific points on the collective vessels. The emissaries on the space station screamed, clutching their heads. "What have you done?" Vael gasped, falling to its knees. "The Remembrance doesn't just attack your ships," Miller explained, opening his eyes. "It unravels the psychic network binding your collective consciousness together. For the first time in millennia, you're experiencing individuality again." On Earth, people watched in awe as the collective ships broke apart, dissolving into harmless light. The main command ship tried to retreat, but the combined fire of the Draconian fleet and Earth's defense system engulfed it, leaving nothing but scattered particles. In the Antarctica Command Center, Collins received reports from around the world. The ancient sites were powering down, their work complete. The heart of Terra returned to its slumber at Earth's core, but remained active, ready if needed again. When Alex, Miller, and Krell returned to Earth, they found a changed world. Humanity had glimpsed its true history and potential. The genetic memories awakened by the Remembrance had given people knowledge that would have taken centuries to rediscover. "What happens now?" Alex asked Miller, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the Antarctica base, watching the Aurora Australis dance in the sky. "We rebuild," Miller replied. "Not just our technology, but our place in the galaxy. The collective controlled or destroyed most of the civilizations we once knew, but there must be others out there. Perhaps some that escaped as we did." Admiral Krell joined them. "My people are free for the first time in generations. We would join you in this rebuilding. Together we might accomplish what neither of us could alone." "The Guardians return," Miller said softly. "That's what my ancestral memories keep showing me. Earth was never meant to be just our hiding place. It was meant to be the fortress from which humanity would someday re-emerge to protect the galaxy." In the weeks that followed, Earth began its transformation. The ancient technology, once fully awakened, accelerated human development beyond imagination. The Draconian fleet, no longer under Harvester influence, formed an alliance with Earth, and, from the Antarctica base, now revealed as the ancient command center it had always been, the first joint human-Draconian mission prepared to launch. Their destination, the original human homeworld, abandoned 10,000 years ago. Commander Alex Howard stood on the bridge of his new ship, built with recovered ancient technology. Beside him were Olivia, Russell, and representatives from both Earth and the Draconian fleet. "All systems ready," Olivia reported. Alex looked at the stars on the view screen. Somewhere out there was humanity's true home, and perhaps other survivors of the collective's long harvest. "Let's go find them," he said, and gave the order to depart.